Hey everyone, welcome into Pro Football Ireland Monday morning football for week 12. First live or video version of Monday morning football in quite a while, and it's really fun because myself, Conor Mangan, are here. Michaela is in the States, she'll be back soon on different podcasts. Conor, before I ask you how you're getting on, we are currently, as we record, watching the Bills and the Eagles in overtime. So we don't know what's going on. 9:10 left on the clock by my, or 8:57 by my rankings. But man, good to see you. How you doing? You good?
Yeah, great to see you too. This game is just absolutely incredible. I'm just kind of trying to keep an eye on things as they go. It's now 7:49 p.m. on the East Coast, so where they're playing, it's a fucking wet day in Stoke. Type of weather out there. It's absolutely. It looks rainy. It looks tough. And I was just kind of thinking, Michael, to myself. I don't know if you thought this. Like these are two like high-powered offenses. Eagles got like Devontae Smith. They got Spears. They got a lot of weapons there. Like Jalen Hurts is very fast, very strong. Then you've got like Josh Allen on the other side. You got Diggs. You got Cook. Like you can imagine, this game was played in like late August or September, and they're running fast and running out. Like we thought might have happened in Frankfurt between the Dolphins and the Chiefs. Like what would have happened if this was a fast game? But we're actually being treated to just like an unbelievable game, regardless. 31-31, like overtime. This is just sensational. All thanks to Jake Elliott, 59 yards out. My God, did he give that a belt on the left hash, lined up? They tried to ice him. Icing doesn't even work for kickers anymore of his caliber. He's just too good. He's just too good. If you looked at his pro day footage, Jake Elliott is 5'7". He's 5'0" nothing, as they say where you're from, Michael. He's absolutely tiny little thing. And he smashed it from 59. I think it was good from about 63, 64. Also played the wind perfectly. Wow.
I love it. We will come back to that Bills game whenever it ends, so we can talk about it fully. But obviously, we're watching it live at the minute, and as of right now, the Bills are inside the Eagles' territory. Shout out to Luke who's watching live on YouTube, and just a big good morning to everybody listening to this on their Monday morning. And before we get started, Jeff Reinbold has got 8 dates coming to Ireland in January and February. linktr.ee/NFL Ireland. And also, if you're in the Dublin area next week, the first or before Dan Whelan, the last NFL player to make it in the NFL, Neil O'Donoghue, for 40 years, almost 40 years, was holding that record. He is in Dublin next Wednesday night at a private event for a podcast launch, which I have been honored to play a very small part in. There are tickets if you do reach out to us at NFL Ireland or at Michael_NFL. We've got free tickets to give away. It's in Clondalkin next Wednesday night. Let me know. Conor, it's been a while. I feel bad, but I was saying off camera. Last week we were at the Steelers watch party, and it was just, look, why going into detail, it was a non-starter in the sense of there was pints. There was lots of pints. But more so, I actually had to get up early on Monday morning also for an appointment. So look, it was a great weekend, but we just couldn't do this here. So look, it's good to see you again. Talk to me. How have you found week 12? Because like the early slate wasn't fantastic. There were some decent games, but it wasn't amazing.
No, yeah, it was definitely interesting. I mean, it's always a fun week when it's the Thanksgiving week because you have these games on a Thursday, like the 3 games in the Thursday, and obviously Detroit always lose, as is tradition. Oddly enough, even though we love the Lions here, but yeah, it was so like there was a bunch of games that had already been played, so definitely interesting. I mean, one of the picks that was kind of a wooden spoon game, maybe even the Giants and the Patriots, like should have been a better game than it
It was
was.
really
Like
awful,
as you
Connor.
said, yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't the greatest early afternoon games. That was kind of like that was a real stinker. The Panther Titans, you thought that might the kind of another wooden spoon event, kind of a bit of a stinker too. Not really a whole lot going on. And then kind of like the couple of other better, like Steelers Bengals didn't never really push through. I mean, it's interesting because the Steelers have made coaching changes, which have been called for ages, ever since we went to the game. Pro Football Ireland and Leader Kicking went to that game down in the Steelers against the Ravens. They were calling for Canada to be gone. So he did. So it's kind of, there's some interesting kind of storylines there, but the games didn't really play up to them totally. Maybe the Texans Jags. I enjoyed that game a lot. But yeah, not sure where we want to start here, Michael. But let's dive into them real quick.
Let's go Texans Jags because we haven't spoken a couple of weeks, and I think the week before that you were in Frankfurt with me. So it's been a
That's
busy
right.
few weeks. One thing that's
Mhm.
happened over that time period has been the evolution of that Texans offense. We're now in the conversation of CJ Stroud for MVP. Nico Collins, Tank Dell, that offense played so well today, but the Jags win the game. But the Jags offense is so freaking good, Connor. They're just full of guys. When you have Travis Etienne, who missed the season, came in, looks like a rookie almost in that sense. He's playing so well, but more so you can see that evolution and that maturity at Trevor Lawrence today. When the crowd was against him, when they were going down a bit, he just fires it over to Calvin Ridley. Hell, Luke Farrell, Evan Engram, Christian Kirk. I really am starting to look at the Jags as a serious threat for the AFC. And I never thought I'd say that this year. I thought we were a little while off. As a kicker, to see the Texans miss a field goal at the end with the doink, it was fun to watch. But do you know what? I went to see the Texans against the Jags in 2019 in Wembley, and it was awful, awful. Now at the time, obviously Deshaun was the main attraction. Of course he was. He was the best player on the field by a 100 mile. But to look where those two teams have come in that time period now, these are two teams that are going to be fighting to the end of the season. Two teams that have got a very, very bright future ahead of them. And for me, the Jags at 8-3 are good value. The Texans at 6-5 are better value than what it is in paper. They're a hell of a football team. Um, and just to see what D'Amico Ryans has done with them is just it's awesome to see, man. It was a standout game of the early window today, without a shadow of a doubt.
100%. Yeah. Like I think the Jags, like as we kind of discussed, maybe after week 5 or 6, we were kind of like, all right, these lads are really serious. I think when they beat the Bills in London, and we don't have to get back into that again because you just talked about how good their offense was. But this is what I love when you come up against a team like the Texans have been looking so good the last few weeks, especially with Stroud. Like Tank Dell seems to be able to do nothing wrong. Like rookies playing like that, like Jahmyr Gibbs in particular kind of reminds me a little bit of kind of those kind of rookies that are coming in. So like Gibbs at Detroit and Dell with the Texans, like they're both being given opportunities that suit them kind of perfectly to do what they're going to do. And I mean, Tank Dell made this unbelievable 58-yard catch. It was absolutely sick, and probably maybe would have like changed momentum a little bit. I think it was in the third quarter, and got pulled the whole way back because one of the linemen was slightly out of position. So it was a legal formation right before it even began. So yeah, I love the Texans. I think CJ Stroud is amazing. He's doing great things. But when a team's kind of on the up like that, and they come up against a team that we already like, that are already established, that have a great record, I think it came to that it was going to be kind of a cool game like this. I think it could have gone either way, to be honest. And yeah, my buddy Matt Amendola did hit a game winner, I think 2 weeks ago. But
Missed a
yeah,
lot
look,
over 50 though, didn't he? I missed at
he's
least.
he hasn't made one over 50 in his career, so he's 0 for 4. He's a guy who's been in and out. But I'll tell you what, 4 years ago in Arizona in March, at about 10 p.m. at night, there was a Jaguars head coach standing behind Matt Amendola, and he's like, "If pretend there's a contract on the line, hit this from 65, and I'll give you a contract. We'll sign you to Jacksonville. We'll sign you in the morning." And I held for Matt, and he absolutely smashed it from 65. So it's not a case that he's lost a leg or anything like
Wow.
that. The Jags didn't give him a contract next morning, but they did give him a contract 2 months after that. And then he bounced around a little bit. Fairborn Kai is injured there, so they brought Matt in, and unfortunately he missed that. He just lifted his head a little bit, and they're really tough times for a kicker. It's you're everything or you're nothing. You're only as good as your last kick that you've hit. And unfortunately, it gets rough when one gets way away from that, especially in a game that I really think they could have won against an unreal team. But yeah, Jags all the way. Etienne and Lawrence and Ridley and Kirk, they're all doing amazing. So it's kind of exciting to see where they'll go from this. I thought this would have been their really tough game, a really big challenge. And I come away with it. I'm happy with the Texans. If I was a Texans fan, I'm still really, really happy. All right, our kicker missed a long field goal to win the game. He pushed a little bit right. But my quarterback is amazing. My quarterback is passionate. My quarterback is talented. My quarterback really wants to win. I've got great receivers. I've got great running backs. I got a good defense. I got good coaches. I'm happy. We lost against a brilliant team. Only lost by 3 points. Let's go.
And well done for not mentioning the Eagles against the Bills. Currently, as we're
Yeah.
live recording this, the Bills have scored a field goal, and it's now on the Eagles to get a field goal to extend the game or get a touchdown to win it. Scintillating stuff in the background. Now, 3 weeks ago, you looked at me and texted me and said, tempted to come back to Frankfurt. Now, for people listening to this podcast that aren't aware, Conor lives in Toronto. He does a lot of TikToks. He's like half viral over there at the minute with the TikToks. Didn't know it was so expensive to rent in Canada. Whole different conversation. But
Yeah.
I tell you what, boy, you hit the jackpot not going to that next game. It was god awful. Now you know how close and how decent those seats in the press box are to the field. When we seen Bailey Zappi warm up with 3 minutes to go, I have to tell you, mate, I thought, what in the hell is going on here? If this was any other team, any other head coach, he'd get slated. And then today, before the game has even started, Belichick suddenly announces that Mac Jones, who everyone thought wouldn't play again, starts.
Mm-hmm.
2 interceptions. Zap goes in for the second half. Zap, 1 interception. And somehow, that New England Patriots team with a good run game, completely inefficient wide receiver core because of what Belichick's done to it, and a good defense to an extent, loses against Danny DeVito's illegitimate son and the New York Football Giants 10-7. If this was any other team in the situation that they're in here, Conor, sitting at 2-9 in the season.
I don't know. I know what you're going to ask me. You're asking me, like, is Belichick done? And I don't think he's done. I mean, he's playing with a
I seen your
quarterback
comment
who.
on Instagram.
Yeah, I don't think. I don't know if Mac Jones is really like mature enough or he's good enough for what they want to do. Like, they're trying to do things. Demario Douglas is actually doing quite well, but he's got injured now again and he's gone. They've sort of found these kind of receivers. They've kind of been popping up and then they've been getting injured. Their defense is really good. You watch what they're able to do. I mean, they shut down the Giants a couple of times and they allowed themselves to get into a position to win that game. And some games are like this, they're tough kind of emotionally and physically, and it's kind of you're kind of battling over yourselves to kind of get over the last hurdle. And that's fair enough, that can happen. But I just think they weren't as bad as maybe people think they are, and basically came down to like their kicker missing a 35-yard field goal under like relatively easy conditions. It was a nice day in New York, like it wasn't bad weather. And he just tried to rip the sockets off that football. Like, he absolutely tried to mash it. He dug in really deep and he just pulled it a hair to the left. And sometimes that's what it comes down to. If this went to overtime and they beat the Giants, it would be we'd be talking about the resiliency of this Patriots team. Maybe they can go on now. Maybe Mac Jones stays. Maybe doesn't. I don't know. I don't think it's Belichick's problem. I think it's a case of players not playing well and not doing the right things and kind of making some mistakes. That's what I think. I don't know.
I think you're right. And I'm not going off it, but we've got a live comment from Mickey Brady who says some great games today. Steelers over 400 yards for the first time against your Broncos 58 games ago. Thanks, Mickey. Yeah, I've sort of adopted the Steelers now anyway, so I'm going to get in trouble for even saying that. But can we talk about the Steelers? I mean, you mentioned Matt Canada. The watch party in Dublin seemed like a real missed opportunity. Not as a Dublin, but that team could have got over the line against the Browns. They could have been sitting 8-3 right now, which is a whole different sort of logistical conversation. But to be sitting 7-4, you've seen deeper passes from Kenny Pickett. There was obviously no touchdown passes from him today, but the team looked better. Granted, they got over the line again, 16-10 against a Bengals team with no Joe Burrow, who's obviously out for the season. But it was a breakout game for Najee because Jalen Warren has been the better running back all year. Pat Freiermuth was relied on heavily, but look, the Steelers are hosting the Patriots in Thursday Night Football. They should be going 8-4. This is the playoff team, yeah?
Yeah, that's a trap game, though. That's 100% a trap game. They've got that
In
two great
Pittsburgh as well.
defenses. I know it's two great defenses coming up against, two average offenses. Yeah, their running game can be good, and they did. I think the change in offense, whether it's the actual change and the actual changes they did, or whether it's the team are kind of motivated, same as often when coaches are switched, like particularly in like the Premier League, for example, you switch manager and all of a sudden you win 3 games. It happens like all the time, especially with the bigger teams. Was it something like that all of a sudden they got over 400 yards offense, and they're showing that they really are a comprehensive offensive team, and Kenny Pickett is fine, and he's not the problem? Because during the week, it was Canada and Pickett are the problem. I don't know who's the bigger problem. That was kind of the storylines I was seeing, and I'm sure some people out there think that, and I'm sure some people are like, Conor, you're off your rocker. Kenny Pickett's just fine. He's not the problem. It's always been Canada. We've always been telling you that.
I've seen places say that. Fox were saying it all week.
But they're 7-4, and if you said like if they really should have won last weekend, like especially with the backing of Dublin and Ireland, like come on lads, win the game. But they didn't, and that would have put them 8-3, the same as the Ravens. And if you're going to tell me that the Steelers are just the Ravens, I know they beat them. They beat them at home when we were there, which I was shocked. But I think most people would agree the Ravens are a much better team. Even the Browns and the Bengals, the Steelers have a way better record. They're coming second now in the conference, and you wouldn't, like, if you were a general fan and you've been following just the news and not actually looking at the scores, you'd be like, yeah, Browns, I think they edge the Steelers all right. And yeah, Bengals, definitely. I know they're missing Burrow, but yeah, I still think they would edge the Steelers. But no, Steelers are 7-4. They're just like one game behind the Ravens. And yeah, they're headed to the playoffs. We're just going to see what they're going to do in the playoffs, which team's going to show up. Is it going to be one of those teams that look like they can lose every game and then somehow squeak a win, or is it going to be a team that continues to improve for the next 2 months left in regular season, and then really digs in deep with that running game? I think it would be the key if they're going to go any way but far in the playoffs.
I love that we're doing this live. People on the Monday morning are like, "Oh my God, shut up!" But the Eagles, Swift has just ran it down to the 10-yard line for the Eagles. So they're very close, and we will talk about it whenever it ends.
Yeah, and it's 34-21. It's now 8:05 Eastern Standard Time.
8:22 apparently. The Chargers and the Ravens starts at. Very, very quickly, just you're wearing a Christmas jumper tonight.
Sure am.
When does it become too early? Now watch my camera. When does it become too early to? By the way, touchdown Eagles. Jalen Hurts.
I don't know, Michael. I don't think it's ever too early. This looks like an early Christmas present there for Philadelphia. It's always sunny in Philadelphia, even when it's raining, lads.
Let's jump on that game, man. Like, let's hear. What a game!
Yeah, let's dive into it right now. So first of all, November 1st, Christmas decorations. I have no problem with you. Call me. I'll be your friend for life. No. Second of all, let's jump into the Eagles. Of course, they're a brilliant
November
football
1st
team. Michaela's not here. They're now 10-1. They won the last one game. They got the best record in the NFL. Michael McQuaid, do they deserve to win this game?
Well, first off, as I said, is that going to go November the 1st is a disgrace. Now, I know you boys in Canada have early Thanksgiving, but that is shocking.
Well, Canada Thanksgiving's in October, in fairness. So, but go on. Let's dive into the Eagles.
I only know it because of Jeff. Basically, I think first off, they come into this game 9-1. We all know how good of a football team they are. Okay, we all get that. Secondly, I do not want to, nor do I need to see Bradley Cooper on TV as much as we see Taylor Swift in the crowd. We know he's an Eagles guy. He loves the Eagles. We see him
kind of funny though. I kind of like it.
First down. Jesus wept. Like, what is going on? The Eagles struggled in 2/3 of this game. Probably half the game. They struggled to get points on the board. Yes, they started off the game well, but they went into the half 17-7 down, and they were struggling to get the ball down the field with certain guys like Kenneth Gainwell, for example, had it quiet enough down the run game. Guys like Jack Stoll, but then suddenly it started to just pick up, and I think this is a sign of a really, we know the Eagles are a top tier team. We know they are, but this is a sign of a team elevating itself, a team that can take itself to different levels. When you're down and out, sometimes teams can close off and can lose confidence. For example, Buffalo. Like, Buffalo have been like not awful, but they've been really poor in games this season. 6-6 in the season, and for either team, I think it's only right to say that if either team lost, you can't write them off. I think, like, first off, and I'm going through different topics here, but for Buffalo, they put up 34 against the Eagles, best team in the NFL for me at the minute. That's a good sign, but they conceded 37 points. That's not good enough. And personally, for me now, I'm starting to think, and I'll revisit this in 2 weeks' time when we get to like week 14, week 15. I think they're going to miss the playoffs. I think they're going to struggle. They were coming into the week, um, in that last wild card spot. I think they're going to struggle this year. But to see an Eagles team get to 5 wins in a row, to go 10-1 in the season, to not just get over the line, but to elevate their run game, to ensure and see Jalen Hurts, who we know is a mobile quarterback, get to that next level in his performance. But to get through where they need to be, their defense is electric. Their offense got them through that fourth quarter. There was a play in overtime. I think it was 3rd and 4. I didn't see the eventual. I didn't see who caught the ball, but they were in a situation twice in overtime where the game was on the line and they got over the line. Before overtime, they had to get a field goal, 60-yarder. That's clutch. That's a team that can get over the line. Yes, the home crowd helps, but I have no doubt whatsoever that we'll be sitting in a month and a half, 2 months' time watching the Eagles against the Niners in the NFC Championship game. And I just can't see a team right now, Connor, beating the Eagles in the Super Bowl. They're too good.
Well, that's completely untrue and incorrect, Michael,
Oh,
because if San
oh.
Francisco 49ers could definitely beat the Philadelphia Eagles.
I
That's
think the Eagles.
not a
Look.
doubt, by the
I
way.
think if the Eagles host the Niners in Philly, it'll be the same as last year.
I'm just being like I'm being abrasive on purpose because apparently that's entertaining for everyone in the crowd.
Remember that
But yeah,
last
no, I
year?
think I think 49ers and Eagles would be a sensational Super Bowl. But you're looking at that. I think the Eagles did get some calls against them as well. Like um, we talked about that penalty on Jason Kelsey right towards the end was like a very harsh penalty. Like he barely moved. And I know this has been kind of a new rule in the NFL. They're being kind of stricter on their linemen and centers. And if they flinch, they're done. It's a penalty. But my God, like he barely moved, and that was a penalty, and that made a really tough field goal. But these are excuses that championship teams don't take. You don't make an excuse. What you do is you adapt to what's going on. So they adapted their running game, they adapted their offense to the conditions and to the Buffalo Bills, and I think they made it happen. You know what? Okay, I got a 59-yard field goal I have to make because there's been this tiny penalty on Jason Kelsey that's put us back an extra 5 yards. So instead of 3rd and 12, we have 3rd and 17, which is way tougher. Like everyone knows that. Like 3rd and 12, you can easily pick up 6 yards. You can make the kick a hell of a lot easier. You're inside 50. But you go back to 3rd and 17, and now all of a sudden you got to push to try and get somewhere close to range, and you just try and force it. But they nailed it anyway. They got it done. I love the Eagles. I think they're going to be very hard to stop. I think it's going to be maybe Jalen Hurts trying stuff that's a bit outside of himself is where people are going to find luck against them. If they can put pressure on Jalen Hurts, they can get inside his head because he's so talented and he's so good. Like he ran in that last touchdown. It was like, and he looked like Saquon Barkley running the ball. He looked tight, he looked fast, he looked dynamic, and he's been out there for like 4 or 5 hours playing football in the rain. So there's no doubt about that, but you can definitely get inside his head, regardless of his physical attributes. You can definitely get inside his head. So the mental game be huge for any of those big teams. And there's lots of great teams, great players, great coaches out there that might be able to get inside there. What's interesting to me against Buffalo is like tit for tat. You look at like for like, player for player. They're unbelievably similar. And for some bizarre reason, Buffalo are 6 for 6. And Philadelphia are 10-1. Like it's almost like it's crazy. Josh Allen,
It's
Jalen
insane.
Hurts, two great quarterbacks, who, well, maybe Jalen Hurts is a bit previous. They love to throw interceptions, but they love to run and they love to score touchdowns. You got Diggs, who's comparable to Brown, let's say, or even Devontae Smith. Two great wide receivers. You've got great running backs. You got Swift, very similar to Cook. You've got great kickers. You got Ty Bass and you got Jake Elliott. You got great linemen on both sides. You got great centers on both sides. You got great secondaries. Like they're very, very similar and they're very like for like. You wouldn't say necessarily one roster is completely stacked against another. I wouldn't say that, but just an interesting NFL season that we're having where people were so excited about the Buffalo Bills. I think definitely thinking they're going to go deep into the playoffs, probably Super Bowl contending team. Now they're 6 for 6, November 26th, 2023. And yeah, you're talking about them not making the playoffs, Michael.
Yeah, I think so. And I'll tell you why in a wee second. I will add to the point that you've really seen Philly struggle with Liam Johnson in the first quarter of that game, and Hurts really did not start the game off effectively at all. And that's something to watch down the stretch. I think he had a groin issue, but it's a sign of a great team when they can turn it around, when they can get things to work. Any team where somebody like Jason Kelsey messes up towards the end can falter, can fail, can start to look in itself and mess up. They didn't. They got down there. They took it to overtime and they went for it. I will say one thing about this. I I think the Bills made a huge mistake on 1st and 10 with 20 seconds to go in a timeout in regular time, not giving it a go. I think for Tony Romo to sit there and say, "Oh well, you got one of the best defenses in the league, they're very good." It's Josh effing Allen. Get the ball down the field and give it a go. Worst comes to worst, throw it away, intentional grounding, whatever you want. You've got 20 seconds to change the game with a timeout. I don't like the call, and it's not Ken Dorsey's fault anymore. So we'll see what happens. I'll tell you why I think the Bills will make the playoffs. You're looking at teams like the Broncos in the AFC now starting to make runs. Like the Broncos beat the Browns today, and Russell Wilson looks like a man that is conquered, and I don't want to jinx it, conquered his demons. Yes, he could do better in terms of yardage, but when him in terms of his quarterback play, and he can rely on Sammy and Javonte Williams, but more so the Broncos defense is starting to get back to where it needs to be. Nick Benito, Josie Jewell, PJ Locke had really good games today. Alex Singleton had a decent game. The Broncos are not out of the AFC West battle. They're not. They will be soon.
They're 100% not, and I know you love the Broncos, but here's what I think happened with the Broncos, and you can continue on afterwards. But they remind me of the Vikings about 2 years ago when they had Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins was throwing interceptions, and they're like, maybe we should just ask Kirk to throw the ball no further than about 10 yards every pass. And that's literally, I feel like what the Broncos have done. They basically reined in Russell Wilson, reined him in because he is a super talented quarterback, and he had a big coach in Seattle who was probably taking control of him and probably quite strict on him. And they've reined him back in finally after disaster of a start of a season, or first half of a season. You have to admit it, for everything they went for, and they got Russell Wilson, and they got all these other players, and they got new coaches, and they had a terrible start to the season. I feel like they've reined them in, and they've reined in their offense in terms of like, okay, well, let's just go like first down, first down, first down, first down. We don't need these massive plays. And that's what I think has been so great about them the last 3 or 4 games, that they have reined themselves in and been able to play a simpler game, but just better the basics.
Shout out to Matthew, who's watching the program live. Also, we massively appreciate Andrew as well. Talking about Jalen Hurts there as well. Thank you for your continued support, and thanks to everybody for their continued support. 1 year of Pro Football Ireland this Thursday. Check out the socials. Maybe we'll give away a signed Conor Mangan Christmas jumper. Who knows? Can I just say very quickly? There's not long left in this podcast, but Sunday Night Football starting, and stadium's not half full. Like SoFi's not half full. Can I just put that out there? Like, oh my god, that Chargers uniform is the best uniform in the league. That navy.
Yeah, I agree with you on
Oh,
that. But you know what? LA, for some reason, like you go back 5, 6 years ago, they had no, was it 5, 6 years ago? They had zero football teams. Like they're not a football town. There's loads of sports, there's loads going on. The Kardashians got a TV show, and they do nothing. Like there's a lot going on that people like don't have time for football in LA. Okay, they're too busy going to Erewhon buying bags of granola for about $20, about 16, 17 euros, absolutely insanity. Like anyone in Ireland would have a nightmare attack. And so people don't go to SoFi on time for games. They're too busy, having a bougie dinner somewhere. But yeah, it should be an interesting game tonight. I'm not sure who you think is going to take it. I'm kind of excited to watch the Chargers, to be honest. But who have you got for tonight?
by the time this audio podcast goes out, we'll know the future. I'll say the Ravens win 34-15 or 34-14. I'll be bored and say
Do you
that.
think? Do you think the Ravens, if they win tonight, do you think they have a chance of a Super Bowl? What do you think?
I think
Because I was
we're
asked this. I was asked this on Friday. I was asked to come up with two maybe slightly alternative teams for the Super Bowl, and one of them I did come up with was actually the Ravens.
part of me would love to say
Bear in
that.
mind, people have already watched this, so let's just say the Ravens win. Let's say they win by 10, whatever.
People are going to hate us now if the Chargers win, but hypothetically, Ravens, Dolphins, Chiefs. I think those three are your final three in the AFC. Your fourth
Yeah.
interesting conversation to have. I think it's up in the air. But there's one thing for sure, and Mark Hogan keeps blabbering on about this in a positive way. This is one of the most open seasons ever. It's so hard to call, especially on the AFC side. Before we bounce, is there anything else you want to talk about, man? Anything else?
Daniel Whelan had a beautiful punt on Thanksgiving down to the 2. He actually had a fantastic game. It was his first one for Thanksgiving as an Irishman, and his mom was there too. It was absolutely class. So there's your little Whelan watch. In terms of the whole kicker thing this week, it's been so different. There's been a lot of missed kicks. There's been a lot of skews. We'll see what happens tonight, but it was quite incredible to watch Jake Elliott smash that for 59 yards on a really wet field and play the wind and nail it. So other than that, no. I guess the one thought that I had that you kind of just brought up there is what this is a weird season. It's very hard to predict who's going to win, and it's because, and I talked about this kind of during the week, like trap teams, like what's a trap game, what's a trap team. There's almost no really bad team where you're going like, oh, I'm definitely going to win that game. Like I feel like I'm almost like anxious to like call it or say it or anything like that anymore. Like, oh, we're definitely going to win that game. Even if it's the Jets, I'd be nervous about calling anything anymore. Like who's going to win. And I love that. I love that every game's competitive. I think that like AFC obviously is more competitive than the NFC, I would say. Like the Cardinals and the Panthers, maybe you could pick those two as the two teams that aren't great. But outside of that, there's a lot left.
Thanks to everybody for putting the live comments in, and obviously thanks to what you were saying as well. It's so open. I love it, man. I love it. For the last 5 weeks, it's been AWOL because there's been games in London, in Germany, and I'm glad to report, not just for people listening or watching this, but also to Conor, that apart from the Super Bowl, please God, I'm at home every Sunday now for the rest of the season. So we can at least do this properly from now on. Conor, good crack. This has kept me going tonight now, keeping it going. Appreciate it.
No, it was fun. It was fun to be watching the Eagles Bills game, trying to not be distracted, trying to give you guys kind of what the earlier afternoon games, and we didn't dive into everything, but kind of watching it at the same time as talking about it was. And I mean, it's a class game. Who doesn't want to watch Eagles and Bills? I mean, like that. This is why we're here. This is why we watch the games all the time. This is why we go every Sunday, and talk about these types of things. To watch an unreal game like that, and to watch an unreal finish like that, and to probably see the Bills bow out of the competition and see the Eagles take their mantle
Eagles.
top. The Eagles. We will see. We will see what the Eagles do. That Kelly Green is absolutely savage. I love it.
Who have you got next week?
Who do I have next?
Who have they got next week?
Let's just check real quick.
Niners.
Who they do? Ooh, there you go. There you go.
It's Steelers Patriots the week after next. My bad. I blame Shane Brennan because he tweeted that and I didn't know. I should know that as the host of an Irish Steelers podcast, but I don't. Steelers Cardinals next week. So sorry to the Steelers fans. Conor, go me Margaret. Thank you so much, and I will chat to you soon.
Slán leat.
Slán go fáil.